You're listening to Generations of Genius, the show where big ideas spark across generations. Every week, we'll tell stories and interview entrepreneurs of all ages, uncovering the genius that drives innovation forward. Powered by Innovation Station Kits on the Launch Network. Here's your host, award-winning inventor, children's author, educator, and serial entrepreneur, Kelly Shea.
Welcome back to Generations of Genius, the show where we explore the minds of changemakers, innovators, and young visionaries shaping our future. Today's guest is one that I actually met more recently, but he is the definition of purpose in action. Chase Hartman is a student, social entrepreneur, and community leader who turned a simple moment of compassion into a nationwide movement. As a co-founder of Eco Brothers Inc., Chase has helped distribute over 300,000 books across all 50 states, raise nearly $200,000 for causes from literacy to sustainability, and mobilize thousands of volunteers to give back. From building little free libraries to leading international youth councils, Chase is proof that age does not define impact, but action does. So let's dive into the show today. Thanks for joining me, Chase.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kelly.
First of all, obviously I want to dive into your story and see how this all started.
Yeah, of course. It started back when I was in the fifth grade, and when I was a kid, I had always been really inspired to just run a bunch of different random projects. I had ran some drives through my Cub Scouts troop for the animal shelters. I had a really silly project that was based off of saving the love bugs. So I was always very interested in kind of just organizing events and organizing things and really, making positive change. And it was in the fifth grade when me and my best friend discovered that there was a local company that was giving away tons of used books because they couldn't sell them. It was a resale company. And at that moment, we really thought about all the books that we had in our home and also reflected on how a lot of kids our age might not have that same opportunity to read, with their parents at night or read even in their schools as well. So that was where our initial project, Read Repeat, was born. And it was a simple project that was started to redistribute used books across Tampa Bay. And it's grown a lot since then. And I can tell you definitely all about that. But yeah, it was definitely a very simple project that my teachers and a lot of other, inspiring educators from around the country were really helping us out with. And it kind of just really grew from there with the attention that we got really quickly.
Yeah, that's so awesome because it's giving access to literacy, especially not on technology, is something that I'm huge on. And I know kind of from our discussions, you're also, a big supporter
Yeah.
of just kind of those books. And I think it's so cool. When we first met, um, so for those listening, Chase and I actually recently met, but we had a weird connection growing up in Tampa.
Mhm.
And we met at Allstate Foundation's National Youth Service Summit, where we were both there and just randomly kind of paired in the same group. So definitely we kind of saw our missions aligning and it was so cool. We knew we had to get him on the podcast. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so how did kind of that experience turn into Eco Brothers? Because did you at like in fifth grade, did you start it or was it more of like, later on, but you kind of started some things? Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the start we definitely did not know what we were doing. Obviously, as fifth graders, it's very hard to run a service project.
Oh yeah.
So at that point, it really took a lot of support from my teachers and my parents and just everyone in our community to really get us going, and I'm super grateful for that. It really turned into Eco Brothers after, or actually during COVID, right when I was kind of ending middle school, starting high school. I really decided that I want to expand this more. I want to not only redistribute used books, but also be able to have that 501(c)(3) status to be able to, get grants and to really get our name out there. And that's when, with my brother, we kind of partnered and formed Eco Brothers. And so it was really at that point where I was starting to take it more seriously coming into high school, and I had a lot of kind of visions for how I wanted to grow this, and it kind of, really, really kind of built itself up from there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And especially because so you graduated high school when too?
in 2024.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, that's so crazy. I was thinking 2023 for some reason. And then your brother's still in high school, right? Too?
Yes, he's a
That you
junior.
run it with? That's so cool. And then so do you ever see kind of like do you face adversity because of your age, just getting people to respond and stuff, or do you kind of see it as like a superpower in a sense?
I think both. I think from my perspective, I've practiced a lot on kind of getting my story together and really making sure that I'm able to touch different types of people in different ways. So whether I'm talking to other kids that I want to volunteer for Eco Brothers or adults, or even I've talked to, the school board to speak on banned books in our county and stuff like that. So it's really kind of I have to make sure that I know my facts and know my story to be able to kind of really get my way in a sense and to really keep the project going.
Yeah. And that's kind of leading into because you worked so kind of your journey of starting and distributing the books in that sense and things, but kind of in the beginning, kind of in your intro, I mentioned how you've distributed more than 300,000 books nationwide, which is like I can't even imagine what that looks like. And I'm sure a lot of people can't either. That's crazy. So, what does it feel like to see that kind of reach out of
Mhm.
something you've built? Like, is it kind of surreal?
Yeah, I think the numbers, when a lot of people hear about kind of the facts and figures of our project, the numbers seem really big.
Yeah.
But I think what's even more important is how long we've been doing it. We've been doing it for 9 years. So if you
Wow.
split those books up into the 9 years, it's not as many as kind of not as many as, or not as big as like 300,000
Yeah,
sounds.
yeah.
But I think what's more important is kind of the impact that we've had in certain schools, whether it's with the partnerships that we formed, the really, inspiring educators that we partnered with
Mhm.
to, implement reading programs and to really make sure that we're not just giving these kids books, we're also boosting their reading scores and working to make sure that they have just a better environment in school overall. And I think that's kind of what I look at when I reflect on this project so far is that we've been able to reach some of the same kids over many different years. Whether it's we donate to one school and we come back maybe 3 or 4 years later, that same kid that was in kindergarten now might be in fourth grade, and we're going to be able to give them a few more books. And
That's
so
so
it's
cool.
really, yeah, it's really those small things that kind of build up and really make me kind of proud of the project and what we've been able to accomplish so far.
Yeah, and like, have you kept in touch with any of these kids that you've like? Because you said, the first grader to fourth grader kind of thing. Have you stayed in touch with any just to for fun?
I haven't stayed in touch with any of the kids, but I've
Yeah.
stayed in touch with a lot of like principals and media specialists. We've even for some of the schools, if a media specialist moves from like they might move from like another school to like one school to another, and we go into that book delivery, and we're like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know you moved schools. Like, it's
That's
really
hilarious.
funny because yeah, we have so many of those connections now, and they we both recognize each other, and it's like super fun to come back in and be like, "Hey, we got more books for you." Like.
Yeah.
Let's party. Let's see the kids. Super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And so kind of moving to the next segment of behind the scenes, I think a lot of people, I think inventors, entrepreneurs, young and old, kind of face the thing of like getting past the email. So, what has worked for you with breaking through of getting your mission out there? Is it just having that strong mission or, what are your thoughts on
Mhm.
that?
I think one thing that I reflect on a lot is that like no one's gonna know of your need unless you really tell other people constantly. And I think that's what really
Love that.
helped us out at the start, especially on social media platforms with even just my teachers in school when I was in elementary and middle school. Right when they found out about our project, they were willing to help because in turn it was, helping them sometimes as well. They were, able to clear for my schools, I was in a very fortunate school, so they were able to help me by clearing out their classrooms and giving us their used books. But then they had a connection at one of our Title I schools in Tampa that they were able to connect us to and kind of started that cycle of really setting up those book deliveries. And so that would have never happened if I wasn't constantly posting on social media saying, "Hey, we've got books." Right at the start of our project, our main platform was Twitter because a lot of educators
Oh,
use Twitter.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Interesting. That's a fun fact.
Yeah, yeah. And it was really funny because a lot of the times we would just post Hillsborough County Public Schools, who needs books? Like, send us a direct message. And tons of teachers or educators would be like, we love your project. Like, we would love to get a shipment of books. And then kind of the word got around. We were able to luckily get on the news and then it kind of exploded from there. But yeah, if we never had told anyone that, we have these books or just even told people about our project, they never would have known that, we have these resources and we have kind of this passion to really spread around to other people.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so cool because it's the we always promote, and my episode last week talked about kind of pivoting for one, which I know you've done a lot of. And not necessarily a lot, but you kind of expanded your mission, I guess I'd say.
Yeah.
But then also your product is nothing if you're sitting on it. You
Mhm.
have to get it out there, or your company is nothing if you're sitting on it. So getting it out there. And so I loved kind of what you said at the beginning of just getting it out. I don't know
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I guess how has your mission expanded then, if you can share that a little bit? Because you started with the books, but then you went to more sustainability as well, right?
Yeah, so over the past few years, especially, we've been able to really grow Eco Brothers into a bunch of different kind of not only just focusing on used books, but also with new books and also some other initiatives. We don't do a lot of these anymore, but we also used to do like beach cleanups and park cleanups. And my brother is very passionate about upcycling stuffed animals and turning them into dog toys, so we
Oh
do that
yeah,
as
that's cool.
and then we've also expanded in some of our literacy programs too. So we've done dual language books, helping English language learning students in Tampa.
Oh,
Um, we've expanded to, providing more diverse books. So we kind of implemented a program, Books with Diversity, to kind of
mm,
really, depending on the demographics of each school that we donate to, we're making sure that they're going to see themselves in the books that they read. And then also with our new youth council that we formed, we've been able to provide grants to all over the world, in countries like Peru, Afghanistan, Nigeria,
wow.
and yeah, and to really support projects that, mainly focus on education and to really make an impact on so many more people. And so we've expanded so much in that, and it really just took kind of listening to other people's needs. I think that's what we really value here, me and my brother, kind of when running this project, is that we don't want to impose what we think is best on anyone. At first, that's kind of what we did with our used books because the schools were willing to take them and
Yeah.
really we just wanted to upcycle these used books, but we realized while talking to media specialists that isn't the best solution. That's where we kind of had to do the dual language books, so the books of diversity, and kind of purchase new books because the kids, when they receive those books, they're so excited and it really makes such a big impact on their lives and their educational journeys that a used book might not, be as valuable as them. They might not want to read it as much. So that's just one example, but there's been many times where we've learned that we really just have to talk to people and recognize their needs and kind of also be willing to change and to grow. I'm super down with taking any opportunity. And like a really great example is, in 2023, kind of when a lot of the book banning laws were,
Oh
um,
yeah.
kind of, yeah, when they were being implemented in just Florida overall, someone reached out to us from an organization and asked me to present at my local school board meeting. And she was like, "You have a really great kind of background and project, and I think that perspective will make the school board listen to you, and a lot of the school board in Tampa was already on our side, but I think it really pushed kind of it really kind of drove that support for just my overall story of just we need to get these books in the schools, and the banning book laws is making a lot of educators scared and they don't want to take in these books. So it's basically hindering students' abilities to get free educational materials that we're providing to schools just because of laws, despite, a majority of our books not being banned. So it was a whole thing, and I think that was just, I'm always willing to take up all these different opportunities because we were able to, if just from that, we were able to partner with a state representative, and we were able to partner with one of the members of the school board and to organize book deliveries, and they, kind of lengthened the trail of contacts that we had and really expanded our mission and expanded just our growth overall. So I'm really down to taking any opportunity and really any pivot because
Mhm.
I'm always just willing to try it, willing to see what happens. And if it's a mistake, like I don't think there's anything really wrong that you can do with the service project. I really
Yeah.
think that as long as you're trying to make a positive impact on other people's lives, I think that's good enough, whether it's reaching one person or whether it's reaching like 70,000 people.
Yeah, and like I love that you said that because a lot of times people might have a product in hardware or
Mhm.
whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go only to hardware shows."
Right.
And it's like, no, be different, right? Like you don't know who you're gonna meet by those opportunities as someone's offering you something. And maybe because of your age, do you feel like you've maybe been offered the opportunities more, or do you think it's that drive?
Right. I honestly feel like, yeah, I think a lot of people when starting a service project, especially when they're young, they might think that their age is going to hinder a lot of what they're doing,
Yeah.
and it might hinder kind of the impact that they make. But I actually think I've been able to really use my age as a positive kind of factor in my project. And I think a lot of people they not only want to support you, but I think they also want their opinions heard. So if a lot of times when I'm just talking to adults and they're wanting to support me, I also just listen to what they think about my projects from an
Yeah.
outside view because even if I disagree with them, it's really great to kind of hear what they're seeing. And, for a lot of educators, they have so much experience that they can give me. And maybe there's been a project or a nonprofit that's come into their school before that they can give me some insight on and
Oh
what's
yeah.
worked, what hasn't worked, because I really value that, even if I disagree with it. So I think I've been able to really kind of use my age as a positive factor. And I think a lot of people, I don't want to say they've like really respected me off the bat because I do have to know my facts. I have to know my
Yes.
story and
Yes.
can really explain what I'm doing to get them to understand. But I think after that, they're very willing to help.
Yeah, like there's definitely that balance of
Yeah,
you need to show maturity, but then
right.
also being, I think, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but a lot of people have told me for myself as well, because we're the same generation, Gen Z or whatever. I
Yeah.
looked it up before, but it's a matter of people consider, I think every generation has seen the generation below them as lazy. And it's
Mhm.
just getting like lazier and lazier because of technology. So, kind of having the drive, obviously at your age and our age, to what you're doing now, in combination with showing a different view, maybe.
Definitely. I think that's what inspires me the most out of especially the youth council that I've formed in this past year. We have now over 200 members, I think around 205 now from 24 different countries. And they're all so inspiring and it really like I that's why I wanted to expand it into kind of a like Eco Brothers into a kind of a global impact because all these kids are now, conversing with each other, sharing ideas, really being able to communicate with each other and to kind of it really shows everyone that there's people all around the world that are still wanting to make a difference and
Mhm.
really put in the hard work and make a change. And I think even if I don't see it a lot in my local community, I know that there's still a global community of leaders that in all of their local communities as well are really working to drive that change as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great segue into our next kind of topic here of you were leading an international organization while also being a full-time college student. So I think that alone is very impressive. And I'm sure you've had long hours with time difference, time zones, and things of that nature. So what kind of keeps you grounded and motivated? Because you also live your life, right? You go to University of Florida.
Yeah.
So you go to football games, I'm sure, and sporting events there. But yeah, how do you kind of balance all of that?
Mhm. It's definitely very hard to, and that's something that I think I'm still learning how to do is
Oh
just to
yeah.
really stay balanced. But I think for now, I really try to just lead every day with intention and to make sure if I'm going to take a break, I know and I'm aware of, how long I'm taking a break and I'm aware of what I still have left to complete in the day. And I think, at the start of every day, in my mind at least, I set a list of kind of goals or kind of have a mental to-do list of what I want to do and what I want to get done.
Mhm.
And I really push myself to make sure that I at least try to get those done. If something, you really, I don't believe in kind of planning out the day and really having a, perfect schedule. Even some of my friends, like they have like when they're taking a shower on their schedule, they have when they're cooking food
That's
for
crazy.
5 minutes. Like I just simply, that's just not for me because I can't, there's so many obstacles and so many distractions that might come in my way throughout the day that
Yeah.
I really just try to lead with intention. I need to know what I'm going to get done. And I also need to know that I need breaks, whether it's watching TV or reading or even just scrolling on my phone. I just need that sometimes. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the doom scrolling or whatever.
yeah.
I definitely that's like my relaxation for the day for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so with all of that kind of being said, what failures did you go through to get here? Or were there any roadblocks in your way that were just really hard and kind of taught you a lesson?
Hmm. I think the roadblock that I faced, and I wouldn't necessarily call this a roadblock, but it was just having to really learn everything as I go. I didn't
Yeah.
No one has kind of, especially for a youth service project, there is not a set blueprint, no
Yeah.
matter, what people tell you, because it depends on so many different factors, what community you're in, your support group. Some students, I'm very fortunate at the start of my project to have a really inspiring fifth grade teacher and really inspiring parents that were able to help me, but a lot of passionate people do not have that same support system. So I would say the biggest kind of roadblock for me was that I really had to, make those mistakes and to really learn and to kind of build that kind of maturity and that kind of knowledge over time throughout my project. And it took a lot of work, but I think it really also just took a lot of patience and a lot of willingness to listen to others. And like that's kind of what I talk about a lot is really just listening to others
Yeah.
because I think it's so important to be surrounded by people of so many different perspectives because you can learn something every single day, whether or not you agree with it. And I think it really has helped me build my project. Just seeing other people's projects and interacting with other people's organizations and just getting involved is the best way that I've been able to learn and grow my own project because I've been able to kind of use some of what they've done or use some of their projects and kind of implement them into my own.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so amazing because that goes back to like the different cross industries of you never know who you're going to meet, you're never going to know the opportunities and the advice. And I'm sure, being at University of Florida, because what's your major too?
I'm majoring in business administration.
Okay, so yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of people because you're learning more of how to work for someone in a sense rather than running your own business, especially nonprofit world
Yeah.
is like so much more. So that's really cool that you learn by doing and putting those thoughts in your pocket, even if it's not relevant now, because no one has that crystal ball and can give you exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so kind of going back to talk about the first version of yourself who started collecting the books, what advice would you give them based on where you're at now, like to your fifth grade self?
I would say the advice that I would give is really to just be open to everything and to not stress yourself out by looking at other big projects. I think at the start of my service journey, I looked up to a lot of big nonprofits that were focused on education and really um, took their work as an inspiration, but I think I also got very overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
I I also would give the advice that do not take too much on your plate, especially when it comes to kind of the cause areas that you're working on. Because, like I mentioned before, Eco Brothers has done, park cleanups, beach cleanups. We've worked in animal shelters. We've done a wide array of different things. And even before with our used books, we were working with hospitals and libraries. And I think our project really was making the biggest impact when we started just focusing on elementary school students
Mhm.
because that itself is, their education is such a big need, especially in the Tampa Bay area, just to focus on those students, it really sets them
Yeah.
up for the rest of their life. And so, we still get a lot of used books and, and are able to donate them to libraries and hospitals and other places. But our main focus, we've really kind of shortened the like kind of perspective of cause areas that we focus on because it has made such a big impact. So that's kind of, I would really recommend to them kind of seeing what you're most passionate about, but also kind of assessing the area that you live in and assessing what needs are actually available because you can, be super interested in marine animals, but if you live in the middle of Utah, that might not be the way, the project that you should form at this moment if you don't have the correct resources to, start that project or, you simply don't sometimes live in an area that needs that. So I
Yeah.
would really assess kind of what needs are there and align them with your passions to really make a strong project.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I I definitely think your journey is interesting with, even though it's been 9 years, going through those different avenues and learning along the way. So I really appreciate your perspective of the past. But now
Yeah.
moving to the future too, kind of what do you and your brother envision Eco Brothers in the next 5 to 10 years?
I really want to grow it into a just large, full force, like international movement. Um,
Oh yeah.
that sounds very like, fancy and kind of vague, but I really just want to bring in people from all over the world kind of working on educational or literacy related projects and kind of just from having, allowing those students to have those connections, I think it makes such a big difference because they're able to gain advice. Someone from the Philippines in our youth council might be able to get advice from someone in Nigeria who's also working on a similar project. And so I really want to kind of keep expanding the youth council, especially while still continuing our local operations in Florida, because I think we've kind of pinpointed the ways that we can make a big difference in both of those areas and in kind of very different ways. And I think I want to really just continue growing and learning and also just taking in new ideas. A lot of what we bring in and a lot of how we grow is just by listening and taking in other people's ideas. And so I just want to keep doing that because that's the best way to, grow our project. We just try anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I think I hope that you're able to get there and kind of keep growing and in that sense because what you're doing is so powerful, especially with that cross collaboration, working with different people in different industries and just kind of motivating people, I guess, in a way,
Great.
from a
Yeah.
young age. To close out our conversation and stuff, is there anything that you want to share with the young listeners out here, I guess young and old, whoever is listening, with, you have this idea, but what should you do with it? What in your terms is kind of the first step of that process?
Yeah. I think the first step is to find your community. Especially if you're stuck on an idea or if you're stuck on, I really am passionate about this related to service, but I don't know specifically how to carry out a project, really just find your community. I would highly recommend, no matter how big a nonprofit is, I would highly recommend cold emailing or cold calling some of the executives or even just some of the workers of the nonprofit to see kind of what they've done. And I also would highly recommend, even if it's not super specific or super related to what you're working on, I would also just recommend getting connected with a lot of youth. When I was first starting my projects, I had gotten involved with a few fellowships and a few programs and went to a few conferences, such as one for the Points of Light Foundation in Orlando, that connected me with a lot of leaders that I'm still connected with to this day. And I, stalk their LinkedIn's all the time to find opportunities. And I am constantly texting them, just catching up. And we're always kind of sharing what we're doing. And it really keeps me motivated. So I would just recommend find your people, even if, for me at the start, my people was my school, my teachers, and the educators that I looked up to were who I could talk about my project with and who could also support me with resources as well. So, it doesn't have to be someone from across the world that's an executive or president of a nonprofit. It can also just be your friends.
Mhm.
That's, as long as you have people that are there to support you, you're going to be more motivated to make a difference, and you can, have that support system to bounce ideas off of people and really just grow from there.
Yeah. And so that's a great advice to close out on. And I do want to say I really, really appreciate your time today. And I would absolutely love to donate 100 of my books too to the
Yes.
organization if that works. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. So we'll definitely do that. But everyone, you know, thank you so much, Chase. I'm so happy you were able to make it on today, especially with kind of shorter notice. And I'm really excited you were the first guest because I think your story is so inspiring. And for anyone listening, definitely check out, I'm going to put all the links for Eco Brothers in down below. And like he's saying, finding your community, they have a youth council that's international. So if you're between certain ages, which you can, again, we'll have that link down there where you all can check that out and kind of see what possibilities are for you or getting involved. Maybe you want to donate books or time as well to the program. That'd be great. But thank you so much for your time today, Chase.
Yeah, of course. And for anyone wanting to join the youth council, or if you have any questions about Eco Brothers, definitely just reach out to me on my email. I'm always down for a coffee chat.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you all for listening to Generations of Genius, where creativity, curiosity, and compassion connect across generations. Until next time, keep imagining, keep building, and keep leading with purpose.